What is your earliest soccer memory?
My earliest soccer memory is my first season playing soccer. I was playing AYSO, and I remember back then the coach used to put one player in front of the goal to kind of block the goal, right? There wasn't any goalkeepers, but that was kind of my first position playing back there. And I remember, um, defending a player and parents like kind of screaming and being very excited. And I wanted to quit soccer after the first season because my coach kept me back there the whole time. So that's kind of my first memory of soccer is, you know, I guess doing well for the role that I was given, but then also not liking it too much, So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a unique position to be put in. Um, well, I guess you kind of answered my next question, but what position did you play growing up? And did you play, well, what did you end up playing after um, your youth career?
Well, I started. That was my first season, and then I wanted to quit because I didn't like standing in the back and not doing much. I think as a player I was, you know, we'll say too high energy for that. So the second year that I played, I had a different team and I got moved around a lot. But I think eventually, maybe around, you know 7 or 8 years old, I started to play more attacking positions, and so I kind of stayed in attacking roles for most of my youth and college and professional careers. So started with playing as a forward, and in high school I played as an attacking midfielder sometimes, and then as I went to college, played forward and attacking midfielder, and on the wing a little bit as well. So kind of got moved around a lot with different attacking positions, but pretty much always playing in those kind of forward areas.
All right. And who was a role model of yours growing up?
Um, you know, I remember watching a lot of. They used to have a pro league called Hawaii Tsunamis, so I remember going to a lot of those games. Um, and I didn't really have one particular role model in terms of a soccer role model. I think the people that had a big influence on me were, I had some really good youth coaches. My dad coached me for many, many years, and I watched a lot of professional players. So the time that I was growing up, the big players were, the Brazilian Ronaldo, Zidane, David Beckham. You had the Galacticos Real Madrid team from back in the day that was very, very good. And so I kind of looked up to a lot of those guys. Um, but I don't know if they're role models or more like, just, I was more of a fan of all those guys, you know. So
All right. And then on a lighthearted note, what were your favorite pair of soccer cleats growing up?
I wasn't really much of like a shoe guy. So I kind of I kind of had Copa Mundials, which are the old
Yeah.
Adidas leather boots that, I kind of really liked those. They were pretty durable, and, if you took care of them, they lasted a long time. And then I think as I got older into high school, that's when, the Beckham Predators came out, the original Beckham Predators. I wore those for a couple years, but I kind of always liked just black leather shoes, you know, just whatever was out there. So I think my first year in college, we had Nike, and I used leather Nike Internationals, and then we were gonna the next version of like the leather Vapors were gonna come out, and I was gonna take those, but then we changed to Adidas, so I ended up going back with like, whatever Adidas leather shoes they had at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And what is your favorite memory from playing in Oahu League?
Um, I just I just remember the team that I was on. I remember the guys that I grew up playing with. We had a special group of guys and a lot of good players and guys that ended up going and playing Division 1 college soccer all over the country. And for me, it was just like the day to day showing up to train and having guys who are really good friends, but were willing to push each other to get better. And I owe a lot to those guys for what I was able to do, beyond high school. When you have a good environment where one of my best friends on the team would just play so hard defensively on me that I had to figure out, this was like a day-to-day thing for me, and it kind of grew my competitiveness, and that allowed me to go beyond, the youth or high school level to play at a higher level. So to me, it's just the memories that I had, kind of battling with those guys and then doing what we did together. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Well, you're in a unique position having played in Oahu League, then in college, and even professionally, but you have now returned as a coach and a board member, so everything has come full circle for you. So given that, how has your perspective of soccer on Hawaii changed through the years? And is there clear progress being made in the quality of players and coaching here?
I, it's a kind of tough question to answer because I think my perspective as a player growing up is completely different than how I view things as a coach. So, I think the game in the United States in general has progressed a lot since that time. You have a lot of young guys that are going off, and I'm talking mostly just on the men's side. You have a lot of young guys going off and playing in Europe, which was happening occasionally back then, but just not as frequently. Like right now, it's happening
Mhm.
every year. There's a new guy getting signed for some German club, right? So I think that the game, it has advanced in the United States, and it's really hard to gauge, how Hawaii is doing relative to that advancement, right? Um, but I think like in general, there's probably more coaches that are a little bit more knowledgeable about the game. Um, there's definitely more kids playing, which I think is positive. I think there's some things that have not improved or have gone backwards, but I won't get into those details.
All right.
Yeah.
So then I don't know if you're going to answer this next one or not, but what is something that you think would help with the advancement of soccer here on Hawaii?
I I think that I think you can never be um, you can always improve on technical ability, right? So, you know, I think a lot of players need to work on being more technical, touch the ball more. A lot of coaches need to focus on that more. Um, Not to say that that's maybe one of the areas that we've actually improved on, right, over the years, but you can still improve on that. I think that I think in general there's an obsession with youth soccer. There's an obsession with um, tactics, and I think if you don't have the technical part of the game down, then tactics pretty much mean nothing. If players can't control the ball, then who cares what they have in terms of knowledge of the game, positioning, and all this other stuff. Like the you know ball mastery and technical ability comes first, and then once that gets established, you can't forget about that stuff as you add the different layers on top of that in the game. So to me, that's I would say, like, those are the main things that I think can advance, and it's probably true all over the country, not just in Hawaii. So
Yeah, absolutely. What is the most unique experience you had playing at the collegiate or professional level?
um, I was involved with, I would say, like in my college team, it was just always a group that was competing at the top level. And I just think that every year you have to come and compete. And this is true at the professional level too, but it's a little bit different. When you play college soccer, you're kind of, everybody's pretty friendly with each other. You're not really you are competing for a job, but it's not like competing, competing at the professional level. It's a little bit more business, and you're not really friends with everybody because you have some guys that are, it's a lot of it is just age gap thing, right? So some guys have kids and they're more advanced in their different stage of their life, and if you come in as a young guy, you're not, sometimes you don't connect with some players because they have other stuff going on in their life. So at the college level, right, like you have your group of friends, you kind of hang out with each other all the time, you're competing, but you like those guys a lot. So I think the college level was a really enjoyable experience, even though it was really high level and competitive. And for me, it was uh, it was just the dynamic of being able to compete with guys who you're friends with, and knowing that like you had to come in and perform every day. Similar to playing pro, but I think the personal relationships that you build in a college program are a little bit more of a bond than what you get with at the professionals. You know, because at the professional level, it's you know, it's way more cutthroat, and you know, you have to fight for a spot on the team every single day. You know, it's not just, you don't have like a tryout and then you're on the team. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's every single day you're fighting. So, but I enjoyed all of that. I just enjoy the competition aspect of all sports, and that's probably the thing that I miss the most about not playing it anymore. You know, so yeah.
Yeah. I have the same feeling. So, and then two fun questions to close us out. Would you rather score a hat trick or the winning goal in the 90th minute?
I would rather score than winning goal. You know,
I
it's
agree.
way more exciting to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
hat tricks, but 90th minute goal is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And lastly, if you were to give a TED talk, what would it be about?
I don't think I'd want to do a TED talk, but you know, I don't know. I have very narrow interests, so it would probably be something with soccer. You know, I don't have too many other hobbies outside of soccer, so it would have something to do with, you know, soccer. Maybe I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I would prefer not to speak in front of people actually.